Estate. I'm a real estate agent, coach, and investor. And every week we do a weekly workshop where we talk about a different topic in real estate to help you move your business forward. It's every Monday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Consider this your invitation. We're talking about open houses today. Open houses are consistently the number 2 ways to get leads. The number 1 way is always and forever your SOI, your sphere of influence. And so the number 2 way, the second best way to get leads is going to be open houses. And so if you guys are new to figuring out how to get open houses, we're going to talk about that today. And I have brought in Ross Hartmann, who is really a pro at open houses. He has jumped in and dove in head first to open houses in his real estate career. So I wanted to bring him in to do a Q&A interview style, asking him about how does he do open houses. And so this is going to look a little bit different than what we normally do. I don't have any slides. I don't have any worksheet to send you guys. This is really just a conversation between me and Ross. So I want you guys to write in the chat your questions, and we're going to make sure to answer those as we go. I'm going to act as kind of the moderator. And so as we have questions pop into the chat, I'm going to ask Ross those questions. We're going to address them. So make sure that you're popping questions in. If you don't see your question get answered, we're going to do our best to answer them, or at least collect them and answer them collectively. So Ross, come on up.
Okay.
And first I want you to introduce yourself, and I want you to tell us a little bit about your background and your history, because that has a lot to do with why I think you're successful with open houses. So yeah,
Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Some of you may know me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, so my background is, I came right out of corporate America. I was an advertising executive, part of a group that ran an advertising company for a very long time. And then the last 12 years before I went into real estate, I worked for an internet company in regional management, meaning I had an area from Long Beach, Huntington Beach, up to Sacramento, San Francisco, over to Reno, of salespeople who reported to me. So, and almost everything I ever did was face-to-face type of sales. I would only use the telephone to call people to set appointments, and that was it. Otherwise, everything I did was face-to-face. Even with salespeople, I would fly up to San Francisco to meet with them and before COVID, I tried to avoid Zoom as much as possible. So that kind of gives you a background of why I like the face-to-face and how it translated so well into open houses.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I like about your story is you're taking so much of your background and you're translating it into real estate. And for so many of us, we have a long history before real estate. It's not that, there are very few of us who get into real estate straight out of college or fresh out of high school. For those of us who do, I love that, but that's a small percentage of us who are like that. Most of us have a 20, 30-year long career, and then they decide to transition into real estate. So Ross is a prime example of taking what he knows and transitioning it into real estate. So let's jump in and talk about, how did you get started with open houses? Why did you choose open houses as the way to go?
Well, a little over a year ago, I kind of heard rumblings in here about people doing open houses. And then the leader of Porter Ranch, Baldwin, said, "You have a few minutes, do you want to meet about something?" So we started talking about open houses. I'm not sure how the conversation morphed into it, but then he started talking to me about how to target, how to find places to do open houses, and how really the best benefit of doing the open house is actually being seen in the area doing it. And then from that, the side benefits, which turned out to be huge, about meeting potential listings and meeting potential buyers at the open house, is that turned out to be actually the biggest benefit. Because the one thing that it seemed like most people that don't get open houses are afraid to do is to call and ask other agents to do them. And I call every week and I get turned down a lot, but it doesn't matter. Since I counted up before I came over, since last August, I have done 33 open houses. So that's a lot. And I really have built my database. At least I have a pretty big database because I was in business for quite a while, but I pretty much doubled it just in the last year on open houses. That's huge.
So you haven't been in real estate for a year yet?
A little over a year.
A little over a year.
Yeah.
So you started
In July last year.
in July?
14th.
Okay, I was thinking it was November for some reason.
Yeah.
So it was July
Well,
14th, so,
things started really rolling in November.
Okay.
It took a while. I had a business plan going into it, but it took a while to get the business plan rolling.
yes.
So November is when it really started rolling.
Okay, so just barely a year.
Yeah.
So in a year, there are 52 weeks in a year, you did 33 open houses.
Yes, yes.
So how many of us have done 33 open houses in 1 year? That is a lot. Yeah, I'm seeing, nope.
I did
Most-
like 20.
Okay, 20 is
That's
good.
good.
20 is good.
Yeah.
And so 33 open houses, really what you're saying is open houses is the way to go. So
Yes.
what has been the outcome of these open houses that you've done?
Well, the first one, actually the second one, because the first one I did was in Palmdale. It was a little too far, but it was great educational. It's too far from where I work because and when I was in advertising, nothing was far. I mean, I had to fly to Iowa for business, so nothing was far. In real estate, I learned it could be too far. Because when I did the Palmdale one, I met some really nice people, but if I was gonna show them stuff, it was like a 45 to 60 mile drive before we even saw the first place. So
Yeah.
I quickly learned, and it's too far, but I learned a lot about open houses. So I did that, and then I decided to kind of compartmentalize it, and I kept it within about a 4 to 6 mile distance from my house. Because I have an office at my house I've been using for probably 12 years. So I kept it to that. So the immediate benefit was the first buyer client I had came from an open house. It's about 4 miles from my house. And she and her fiance came in, they signed in, and I probably left her a message every other week. I did not hear anything. And then about a month, and that's why when it started getting rolling. She was the first one. About a month and a half, 2 months later, she called me and said, "We're ready now." So I thought, oh, that's
So you're calling her every couple weeks?
Yep.
Were you
just to say hi.
talking to her every couple weeks?
No, just voicemail. She ignored me.
Yep,
Totally ghosted me. Yeah.
okay. You've told us something before,
Mhm.
the stat about how many times you have to call before somebody usually makes a transaction.
8 times. That is, at least in the industry I came from, and you have to realize in the industry I came from, you were told no 99% of the time, and you have to prospect. Like the people who worked for me, their job was prospecting 85% of the week, period. No excuse. Anything less than that, you're unemployed because you're not making sales.
Well,
So,
and that's
yeah.
the reality of our business too.
Yeah.
Anything less than that, you're unemployed
Yeah.
because you're not
Yeah.
making sales. You're not,
Yeah.
we do not get a salary. You're commission
Yeah.
only. So
So
if
in
you're
real
not
es-
working, you're
yeah, in real
unemployed.
estate, you unemploy yourself.
Exactly.
In advertising, we unemploy you. But
Yes.
you still, it was the same thing because you weren't not making sales. And there's tough markets in every industry. Just it kind of goes up and down. So if you keep consistently doing that, you may have a rough few months in every industry, but then it's going to break because you're setting yourself up for a proper break. If you give up, then you're setting yourself up for a crash.
So 8 times,
8 times.
and how many calls does the average person make before they give up?
I think the stat was about 3.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
pretty
I think
on
that's
trend
about
with
right,
real
yeah,
estate agents too. Is that we call a couple times and then we say they've ghosted us. And what the reality is what I think is funny is that I feel like I do the same as a consumer. I'll do the same thing where I just ignore, because no, I'm not ready. But I'm not saying, don't ever call me again. I'm just saying, ignore, I'm not ready, I don't want to talk to you. And then when I am ready and they call, I say, oh, okay, I'm ready to pick up. Or I reach out to them and I say, didn't they send me an email? Let me look for their email and then I'll reach out. I've done that countless times. But if they stop reaching out to me, I'm gonna forget what their name is. I'm gonna forget, I might still want to work with them, but I don't remember who they are to be able to work with them. So follow-up is key. Okay, so let's back up before we get there. Let's talk about tactical.
Okay.
Let's talk about what do you do first to get the open house?
Okay, so I already did it this morning, so I already have my feeler out on what I'm interested in. And I go into my MLS for my area, put in my target areas, and I look for, and this was the advice of Baldwin, and then after I did it makes perfect sense. I look for vacant houses. If it's not, like when I had my listing in Valencia, that's my listing. So when I did that, that's fine. I'm responsible for everything in there, but if I do a vacant one, there's nothing in there.
Yeah, so this is if you don't have a listing. If you do have a listing,
it's
you
different.
have your own.
Yes, so I did it, I looked for vacant houses.
Go ahead and put questions in the chat and then we'll follow up.
I called the listing agents, and many times they're just like prospecting. They'll ghost you, they won't call you back. So I called one this morning, he didn't answer, so then I texted him, I'm waiting to hear back from him. That's kind of the thing, that's kind of the deal, because there is 2 or 3 agents that I like to use regularly, but right now they don't, in the last few weeks, they've not had any listings.
Right.
So, or if they get one, guess who's doing the open house? They're doing it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's been the problem for, well, I don't want to say problem, but problem.
It's been a challenge for a
Yes.
couple months, yeah.
Because there are few listings, so that when you have, when somebody has a listing, they're holding their own open house.
Yeah.
But if somebody has multiple listings, or if they're going on vacation that week, they're only one person. And so they potentially need help doing that. So it's always beneficial for you to reach out.
And I'll tell you just from my own perspective, when I had my listing in Valencia, my phone was blowing up 3 or 4 times a week with real estate agents wanting to do that open house. It was the only listing I had at the time, so I said no, but I said, let me have your information. Because if I have 2 or 3 at the time, I'm happy to use you.
Hey guys, we're going to jump back into the workshop in just a second. But first, if you're getting value out of this, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so that you get more videos just like this as soon as they come out. Don't forget to watch till the end for a special bonus. And one last thing before we jump back in, if you're interested in coaching and taking your business to the next level, we have a proven system that has worked with hundreds of agents to get them into production. We would love to help you. Schedule a call with me at the link below and let's connect. Now let's jump back into the workshop.
Okay, so you like to use vacant listings because they're easier to get.
They're easier to get and there's less liability.
Okay.
That's a huge part, because if it's my own listing, I know the sellers personally directly, because I create relationships with everyone I work with. I mean, you have to. So I know them, I've already toured their house multiple times. I've talked to them about what really not to have in the house, about guns, their medications, all that, have them out of there. But if you're doing someone else's, you don't really know if those conversations have happened and there's too much liability. So if it's vacant, it's empty. You can see everything.
Now, as far as if you don't have any vacant listings, do you then expand your search? Do you specifically try and get vacant listing? I mean, I know you do.
I
but
pretty
if you
much
can't-
100% try to,
Okay,
and I've been very successful with it.
okay,
I've only had to do 2 that weren't.
okay, so you really, now what about fixers? Do you try and go for a certain level?
I have done a couple fixers, and I prefer the ones that are already fixed.
And why do you say that?
Because what happens with the fixers and the couple that I did, the people who show up generally already have their own agent, and a lot of them are professional flippers. I learned that immediately.
Yeah,
Like they come in, they're sizing up the property, and then when you say, hey, how can I help you? They're already on the phone with their agent who helps them find property to flip.
right. So, and remember guys, when we're talking about open houses, when you hold an open house, the goal is not to sell that house necessarily. If it does, that's a happy byproduct. The goal is to get buyers and sellers.
Yes.
The goal is to get clients. And so we want to make sure that we are establishing that. We want to build that rapport and establish that relationship. So keep that in mind that even if you have a house that is, you know, like if you have a house that you think, oh, this would be really easy to sell, or this would be quick, or this would be whatever. If it's a fixer and you're mainly bringing in people who already have agents because they're investors or whatever, then that's probably not going to be the best one for you to go with. So keep that in mind, is that your goal is to get clients. And so we want to make sure when we do that. Now, I want to address a couple of questions in here as we go. So vacant listings, most every MLS does have filters for vacant properties. You're going to have to reach out to your MLS for those.
And so, you know, in mine, I had to find it. Like there's a tool in there where you add criteria, and I had to go into that tool and find vacant. So, and if you don't know how to do it, your MLS will help you do it.
Agreed. So if you don't know how to do it, reach out to your MLS because they will help you. I have CRMLS, and I do know that I have the ability to do that too. Now,
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I did talk to the representative person, or how you call that, the MLS person, and she said like, no. And I have
Well,
CRMLS. So
we
I
don't know how to do that because every MLS is different.
Yeah, everyone's different. One of the tricks I learned before I found out about the filter is I just look at the pictures.
Yeah, so that's another thing I was gonna ask is that, what about to narrow the search even more? Do you filter it by days on market?
I do. A couple things is I go for the newest on market or recent price reductions. Two of the best open houses I did were overpriced, and then the seller lowered the price. Like one case was like over 100,000,
Wow.
and I had a huge open house because of that.
Yeah, so if you're narrowing the search to just show me the days on the market, then you can go through and look at the pictures pretty quick and
Yeah.
identify which properties are vacant.
Yep.
So if you don't have the filter for that, then that's what it is.
It's not
but-
a long exercise. It takes me about every Monday, like this morning, I spent an hour on it, and I found the property I really want to do.
Mhm. Now, one of the questions is, who do you talk to about hosting the open house?
I call the listing agent immediately, yeah.
And then, do you filter it by, brokerage? How do you do that?
Not
And I know-
exactly.
Okay. And
I do look for-
disclaimer
yes.
for us is that every market center is different, and it's based on your E&O insurance and liability and everything. So talk to your broker to make sure that you can go outside of your brokerage. And if you can, then
Yes,
now let's hear.
yes, and I do look for Keller Williams agents, and there's a reason for that, even though I will go outside the brokerage, is because if there's a KW sign in the yard, and then I have my signs out that say KW, it looks more like a more cohesive presentation. That's something I learned after about 3 or 4 open houses, and when people came in, because I thought they wouldn't pay attention, but some people came in, they're like, how come the sign says that and it says
Oh,
that?
interesting.
So it did open up nice conversations, but then when I started doing it where the Keller Williams sign matched, then they would ask me about Keller Williams and about other properties we had. Like, people don't know how it works. They think that we have like this magical thing where we just have all these secret properties. out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, they do not know how it works.
Which I have.
Yeah. So one thing that I found, I don't know if you found the same, is that the smaller brokerages, like mom and pop shops, like Bobby and Susie Realty, those are the people who, they don't have a big group to pull from, so those people usually will say yes.
Yes.
Whereas the bigger players, like companies that rhyme with BMAX, they will usually always say no.
Yeah.
Because they have similar policies to like what my market center has, is that we can hold open houses for outside agents, but outside agents cannot hold our open houses.
Yeah.
So the bigger players won't do it, so I don't even waste my time with those.
And then that's absolutely true. I learned early on that some of the bigger ones, but every office has its own rules. So some of the bigger ones won't say we won't work with you. They say, I have a group of in-house agents that I like to turn to first.
Mhm.
So you know your odds of getting it are pretty low if they have 7 or 8 newer agents in the office that they like to give the opportunity to.
Right.
So Brittany's absolutely correct. The kind of just Steve's brokerage where he might have 3 listings and it's just him.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, okay, so let's talk about when we're actually at the open house. So let's talk about open house signs, like putting them out. How do you do it? What do you actually?
I do a
let's back
couple
that
things
up.
before I get to that.
Yes, please.
So one of the things I always do, and it's vacant, so it's not a problem. I ask the listing agent, can I go tour the house? Can I go look at it? Go inside, because they all have supers on them. And they always say yes. So I go over there, I look inside, I check it out, because I kind of like to, it's like, it just comes from my sales background. You know, I used to go out and have to close very difficult accounts for people who worked for me. If you didn't do your background research on it, you could have closed anything. You're just walking in on the star, you're gonna buy it. No, you have to actually know something about it. So I like to go and check the house out. And then I print out my flyers and I walk the entire neighborhood.
How many houses is that?
It could be anywhere from 25 to 50.
Okay.
Depending on the layout of the area. Some areas it's fewer because some areas, just the layout, bigger properties. Some, the houses are right next to each other. So, and a lot of times it could be even 2 days of 40. Just knocking all around it, introducing myself, telling them I'm doing an open house or invited to it, or anybody you know. Like I get to know everyone around it. And they tell you a lot. One open house I did in Lake Balboa on Cantera, one of the neighbors kept bringing over different relatives because I had met her and she was trying to get, I don't think the relatives wanted to live across the street, but she brought them in and it added to my database. So it was cool. So I do all that. And then I blast it out on Facebook once or twice the week before the open house within like by Wednesday, not too far, but about Wednesday before Friday and Saturday. And then I go in and then when I set it up, I look for the main intersection, like you're gonna ask about. And I like to set up 4 signs on the corners. And then I kind of guide them with my signs to the street. And I learned that because before I did any open houses, I took a Sunday afternoon and I went to 6 open houses in Burbank. I grew up there, so I know it well. So I figured I know it, so I just can follow the sign. Some signs led to nowhere. Like I go turn left from Glen Oaks Boulevard onto Cornell. I'm driving up, following a sign, and there's no sign. I'm like, I can't even find it. I never could. There was a couple houses I didn't find.
Okay, I will say the other day I did an open house and one of my signs, when I went to go pick them back up, it was pointed in the opposite direction.
Yes,
So I
yes.
was like, whoops.
Yes,
I did have a lot of people who came through, so I was like, they figured it out.
I did have one of mine used as a Frisbee by a teenager once, and I found it in the middle of the street. And I know it wasn't the wind because my tripod was still over there. The sign was unclicked. I know who it was. I saw someone skateboarding by 9 years soon before that, so I know. But so I try to make it very clear where it's at.
So how many open house signs do you put out?
I usually put out about 10. Some
Okay,
people
10.
go a lot more, but also because it's not my listing, Baldwin made a great suggestion. Also look to try to get it as close to the main street as possible.
Mhm.
So if you're only a block in, you set up the main street and then you can guide them with a couple, 2 or 3 signs
Yeah.
right to the door.
Yeah. Now, also keep in mind for those of you, we always tell you, don't spend money until you make money. And your market centers have extra open house signs. They have open house signs that just say KW on them. And then once you make your first sale, that's when you need to buy your signs. Don't do it before. You have resources available to you.
Right, and one of the things is I went into this, I had a specific business plan with specific funds. So they were for signs and they were for open house signs and they were for advertising. If you don't have that, don't bankrupt yourself when the office provides all that for you.
Yes,
Sure.
yeah. Okay, so now let's move into, so we do have a question about how do you handle negative neighbors, the cranky ones?
You know what? In my career, some of my best sales were to some of the meanest human beings you ever met. For real, especially in advertising, dealing with small business owners. Those are some of the roughest people you've ever met, especially attorneys. So I just have learned how to listen. And one of the things that I used to stop salespeople from doing is when they got into the objection debate. Because you win the objection war and lose the sale. So I just listen, let them be cranky, let them, and you get great information sometimes. Like someone I'm working with, hopefully gonna sign a listing. I didn't meet him in open house, I met him door knocking. But when I first met him, he was grumpy. Every time I've called him, he's been grumpy. He's hung up on me 3 times. And then he called me and said, let's meet. So a week and a half ago, we met. And then I called him back a week later and he hung up on me. So, but he has a house that's worth quite a bit if he decides to sell it. So I just listen, just let him be grumpy.
And the average agent would never call back after the first hang up. And if Ross can, you know, keep going past the grumpiness, he could potentially get a good listing out of that.
And if I didn't call back after the first hang up, I would have been unemployed 35 years ago. I mean, that's really, when you're in business to business sales, prepares great for this because you really deal with people. It's different. People want to buy a house. In business to business sales, they need your product and they are very angry that they need it because it costs them money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the length of your open house and the days that you prefer to do your open house.
I always do 3 hours. It seems like anything. I did 1 4-hour once, and beyond 3 hours, it's pretty dead. So.
What about 2 hours? I've heard that. Does that feel too rushed?
That seems too short to me.
Okay.
Because almost nothing happens in the first hour. Very oddly, maybe one person shows up. Between hour 2 and 3, that's when a lot happens. In fact, some of my best encounters have been where I'm closing up and somebody shows up and then they ask me to tour it. Someone I'm trying to cultivate as a buyer did that to me not too long ago. So I like 3 hours and I like Fridays and Saturdays. I know some people do Sundays. I've done a couple. You know, I finished up with church and I go do it. But I have run into something on Sundays that's very interesting. Is that most of the Sunday afternoons are like people go to church and then go look at open houses. Or they go to brunch and they go look at open houses. And they already own a house and they have no intention of selling or ever buying.
It's just something they do for fun.
It's just like a fun afternoon thing. People on Friday.
That's what I've always done.
Yes, yes, and I did that with my wife many times.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly what I walked into. Doesn't mean I haven't done them. But I know what I'm getting into. Fridays, people show up, they're very serious. Because that means that they're working and they split from work for a little while and they came in or they live nearby and they're very interested in seeing the house, so they come over. And Saturday has been the best day. That's like when I've met really qualified buyers and then potential sellers from the neighborhood.
Okay.
So I do everything kind of very tactically.
Yeah.
And Sundays, part of the reason too is I have some buyers right now that are only available to look at houses on Sunday afternoons. So I'm not going to block that out for 3 hours and lock myself up somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and one thing that I've heard from some people is they say, oh, well, I hear that Sundays aren't good to do open houses and I can't do it Friday or Saturday. So I'm just not going to do open houses.
No, do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do it anyway.
Yeah. I've done them. Like if I can't get Friday or Saturday, I do it.
Yes.
It's just, I know it's different. It's a different kind of thing. Because the other part of that different kind of thing is, you probably just heard what I said, is I have a couple buyers that are only available on Sundays. When I've had what I thought would be good potential buyers that come in, they always show up at their agent on Sunday when they do. So it just hasn't, doesn't mean I'm opposed to it, just hasn't borne the same fruit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you do Sunday, you should advertise it in advance as well. So like I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, I always
Saturday,
advertise.
Sunday, by Wednesday, it's in my social media and it's out there.
Yep.
You know, where
Definitely.
people are gonna show up.
I
after
have
church.
never done an open house that I didn't advertise.
Right.
And I'll drop a little bit of money on it on Facebook. You don't have to, but I will because it's helped. It definitely helps. People see it and they come over.
Yeah. Now, what about bringing people along with you? Have you ever done one with another agent, lender, assistant?
No.
Okay, tell us
I've
why.
had many offers, but it's probably just my mindset. I don't want anyone polluting my sale.
Okay.
That's how I think.
So one of the things that we talk about, a lot of people say, oh, I just want to shadow somebody. I just want to do it with somebody one time. We say, you don't need that. You don't need to do it. Go to an open house. Like what Ross said, he took one weekend. He went to a bunch of open houses, saw how people did it, said, I like that. I don't like that. Never going to do that. I love that. Whatever it is, that's how you can shadow, and then go to an open house and hold it. The other thing is for our PC agents, we have a shadowing
Yep.
open house video that you can
Yep.
watch. That is a great behind the scenes kind of, here's why we do what we do. And you're not going to get that with an open house. So when you do hold an open house with another agent, just know that, yeah, you're not going to get the sale. You're going to have to split whatever that is, basically 50-50. Why would you do that? You don't want to do that. So we do say, if you want to do it with somebody, do it with a lender, because at least the lender is not taking business away from you. But you don't have to do it with anybody. I do tell people, like for myself, I don't like to announce where I'm going to be for 3 hours of the day, like give people the exact address for safety reasons,
Yes,
and then
yeah.
be there totally alone. So I do have people coming and checking in on me, and I'll have my partner come and stay with me for part of the time, or at least come like midway
And for
through.
safety reasons, I would highly advise that. I mean, I do it for different reasons, and I don't like to have someone there. But there are people in Porter Ranch who I know and trust, that if I felt I needed someone with me, I would just approach them and say, you want to go with me? But knowing I just lost half of the contacts that came in.
Right.
You have to know that, because
And
if someone asked me to go do an open house with them, these are all our own businesses. So if you're investing 3 hours of your business time and someone asked me, I would expect half of what came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the other flip side, I would expect to have to give up half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've talked about, like kind of the setup of it. Now let's talk about when somebody walks into your open house.
Mhm.
So let's say me, I'm walking in and I'm kind of timid, looking around.
I always say hello.
Hi.
First thing I do is I have my flyers, I grab a flyer and I say, would you like some information on the house?
Sure.
Okay, and I make sure they take it, like I already have in my hand, I hand it to them.
And nobody's gonna
Yeah.
say no to that,
No,
because
they
they're
all
coming
take
in and they're coming into the house. So at least we know that they want a little more information about this house.
And then I always say, so have you been looking for a while?
Oh, about 2 months or so.
I hear that. I hear everything from 2 months to 2 years.
Mhm.
And if someone's pretty short on the amount of time, I say, well, are you working with an agent?
Oh, yeah, I am.
And so when was the last time you looked at some properties with your agent?
Oh, a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, what's his or her name?
Um,
Just curious, I might know.
oh, yeah,
No agent.
Bobby?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right there, no agent. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because this is what I do, and when I was kind of newer at the open houses, I wasn't sure, but with my own buyer clients, if they want to go to open houses, I hand them a stack of my business cards. And I say, take these with you.
Because here's the thing too, side note, I hear a lot of agents say, don't let your clients go to open houses without you. You're a good client. If you're a good agent, they should not be going to open houses without you. They are going to go without
Yes,
you.
I agree with
So
that, but they go without you.
They're gonna go without you. So you need to do exactly this. Take my card anytime you go, hand them my card and say, yep, I'm working with an agent.
And I'll tell you a prime example, my number one client, her and her husband. She was out of town for a week on business, and I know when they're coming back, so I sent a welcome back, either text, I think it was a text. And she called me yesterday at about 3 o'clock. I thought, okay, this is interesting. So I answered, and she said, her husband's name is Malcolm. She said, and her daughter is she's a baby, has like a 7-month-old. So she said, my husband, Malcolm and Emery and I went to lunch. We saw an open house and went to it. So I told the agent your name, I gave him your phone number. So if I would not have, and because I had a conversation with her probably about 4 months ago, I gave her some cards. Now she's pretty savvy. Because she goes, oh, so no one tries to poach me, and I said, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everyone who's really working with an agent, like I'll have them, like when they sign in, I'll say, write your agent's name down. If they're working with an agent, they put their whole name down.
Okay, so someone is working with an agent, then
Yeah.
what?
Well, then what I do is I say, okay, well, here's the information. Please, if you have any questions, give me a call, have your agent give me a call. Do you have any particular questions? I'll kind of direct them a little bit through the house, but then I just let them go on their own, and I watch everybody.
Okay, if they're not working with an agent, then what?
If they're not working with an agent, I will stroll around at a little bit of a distance and just point things out, like, take a look, this kitchen was redone, because I make sure I know everything about the house. And that was on me, because like my first 2 open houses, a couple questions I got asked, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So then I made sure that I know, like I asked the listing agent, I read about everything in the MLS, because I want to know. So then I'll walk around with them, say, take a look at the kitchen, and I'll say, that the air conditioning was replaced a couple of years ago, just because not only does it help me in my business, it also builds credibility if they're looking for an agent, if you know something about the house.
yeah. So, what about sign-in? Tell us how you do sign-ins.
Well, I use my iPad now. I have an app. For the first several, I just printed out. It might even be on
The PC toolkit?
yeah, I think it might be. I think that's where I got
There's
it.
a sign, I
It's
mean,
a
there's,
sign in that I printed out, and I had them write it out. The reason I went to an app, and this is absolutely the truth, some people have horrendous writing,
Mhm.
and I could not figure out their emails and their phone numbers. So I'm like, man, I might have lost a client there. Maybe they wrote bad on purpose, because I've got some bad information on purpose. But others, I'm like, I found their phone number finally somewhere online, and then I called them and said, I can't read your email. And then I got it from them, but I went to it was something they have to type.
Mhm.
So, if it's wrong, they did it wrong on purpose. Yeah.
And you can do that in command, by the way.
Yeah.
What app do you use?
I think it's at home or something like that. It wasn't very expensive.
Mhm.
I wasn't looking for something super expensive, just something that I could kind of just capture information that was accurate.
What do you do for flyers?
I use a command. I go in there, I find the open house flyers. Of course, because it allows you to import the pictures and the information straight from your MLS. Then I go through and I edit it because it doesn't fit. I mean, when it pulls in the description, it's like that
Yeah.
long. And so I just edited it down to important bullet points about the house. Because part of that presentation is just looking good
Mhm.
for people to look at it.
Yeah,
Because I've been to some open houses where they have it, like, just the whole thing is full information with like 6-point font, 2-sided.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I was buying a house, I can't even, I have good contacts, but I can't even see this. So it's going in the trash as soon as I get home.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. What about, do you ever do the MLS flyers?
No,
No, I don't like those either.
I've been to some open houses where agents did them, and I don't do them.
They're not very visually.
Yeah, the
appealing.
KW ones look really good.
And we've done, workshops on that too,
Yeah.
that you can
Oh,
find.
one of the tricks is I use thicker paper though, too.
Okay,
Yeah, because I've been to some where they use the 20-pound because they're broke probably. And they're just, when you put them up in your stand, they fall over
Mm,
and they just are not a good presentation.
okay.
Yeah.
Good. How many do you print out?
I print out about 40.
Okay,
And there's a reason I was never sure how many to print out. But one time I did about 20 because, if you get 20 groups through of 3 or 4 people, that's a lot of people.
Mhm.
But there was one where everybody was grabbing them. Like there was one where everyone in a group of 5 people, all 5 were taking them.
yeah.
And I had one left, and I didn't like getting down to that point.
So when you go and do door knocking, do you hand them a flyer?
Yeah, it's a different one though.
It's a different
It's an
one.
invitation to an open house flyer.
Okay,
And then when I do the open house, it's actually open house flyer.
okay. Now, do you do a landing page?
Yes.
What is that? Do you do
I
it through
go
command?
into command, I
Okay.
build the landing page, it pulls in all the MLS stuff.
Mhm.
And then obviously, when I do my Facebook, I have it go straight to that landing page.
Okay, So let's talk about advertising real quick, because I want to focus the rest on just the open house part. So you do Facebook, advertising through Facebook?
Yes, I do two different things. If it's, I'll either post it on Facebook and then boost the post,
Mhm.
or if it's my own listing, I'll go in through command and actually buy the Facebook advertising. Even though a boost is purchasing advertising, it has a little bit more limits on it than if you just, and I just know this because I used to sell it.
Yeah.
So I know it. I know how it works. So I'm more, if it's someone else's, I'll do the boost. If
Yeah.
it's limited, but it's also very cheap.
Right, it's
You
less
get it for like
expensive.
$25,
Yeah,
$20.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to.
And
check
it's
on
my
that.
own listing. I have a commitment to my client that I'm spending a certain amount on advertising, and I go in and buy real advertising.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. So now when we talk about open houses, what else do you do at the open house?
Well, I always bring water bottles for sure. If you live in the valley, you know why, because it's hot. The first couple I did, I
You bring
wasn't.
branded water bottles or just
Not
plain
just
water
water
bottles?
bottles,
Okay,
yeah. And then the first couple that I did, I wasn't sure about, so I called the listing agent, but there's certain things that you have to determine right away. Is if you're doing them like in the San Fernando Valley and it's August, it's probably 100 degrees.
Mhm,
Could be 110 degrees.
mhm,
So you need to have the air conditioning on.
mhm.
There's nothing worse than going into an open house and just getting in a blast for it. Like the first one I did was in Palmdale, and the sellers of the house didn't want the air on. So I'm like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah,
It's 115 degrees.
because then people walk
Yes.
in and say,
And
oh,
they
is something
leave.
wrong with the AC? Oh, it's broken.
Not to mention, I'm not
Something's
gonna
wrong with
sit in
this
there.
house. Yeah,
When it's cooler outside, it's 115 outside, so
Yeah, no.
that's kind of simple stuff, but it's important. I also go around and make sure all the blinds are open. And I turn all the lights on in every room. If they have a walk-in closet, I turn the light on in that. I make sure the bathroom lights are on. I make sure the whole house is very lit up. So they can come in and they can see everything in there. If it's my own listing, I make sure my clients they take down their personal pictures, they take down anything that's personalized. And when I first heard about that, I thought, is that really true? And then I went to a showing with my clients, and the people selling it didn't take down anything. And my clients are looking at their wedding pictures. And they're looking at their pictures of Hawaii, and they're not looking at the house. And I'm like, so it's true, they're still imaging that those people live there.
Right.
Instead of those pictures are down, so then they can look at the house
imagine
like that.
themselves living there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yep.
I actually experienced that though.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's your listing, do you do anything additional? Like, do you do the mega open house kind of thing where you do food or any kind of event status kind of thing?
There's so many people coming to want to try to buy it, not currently.
Yeah.
If the market was different, probably.
Okay, to try and attract people to
I
it.
haven't had that problem.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the market currently is, you put it on and
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah, I haven't had that problem, so I haven't had to do anything special, but that could happen and I would do it.
Yeah.
You know, I went to one recently where a couple agents that I met years ago, when they were door knocking my neighborhood, I know they did that kind of thing. They didn't need to because it was underpriced for the area,
Mhm.
and then it sold over that. But it definitely got them stuff in their database because they did something I thought was kind of interesting. They had people come in and they would say, give me your information and guess how much the house is gonna go for. And the person that's the closest, they're gonna send them like a $50 Amazon card.
Oh,
So they just got lists of people. I thought, that's pretty smart.
that is smart. Have you done that?
Not yet. I just saw that. I thought, that's very smart.
That is smart.
Yeah.
I like that. So I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so
And she's a very successful, it's a husband-wife team. They're very successful.
So let's talk about signing in. So, because that's always a hot topic for people.
Yeah.
So you ask everybody to sign in regardless
yeah.
of,
Unless they come with an agent who hands me a card.
okay, and then
Yes.
you don't ask them.
Then I don't,
Or if
like-
they say they're an agent, do you still?
I asked for a card.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, if they have a card or they're an agent, they are giving you a
Like if
card.
they
and you
give me,
don't
like
ask
if like most agents, when they come in, will hand me their card and say, these are my clients.
Mhm.
Then I'm like, okay, that's
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
If I don't get that, I ask them to sign in and
And you
I-
ask them to sign in right away,
it depends on who they are.
okay?
Like
Tell us your strategy here.
Like if I think this is a high potential buyer client,
Mhm.
I will let them walk around quite a bit. And then I'll say, oh, and by the way, before you leave, can I get you to sign in?
And what
And
makes
then
you
what-
decide if they're a high potential buyer client?
Well, this is hard to explain, but I observe everybody who comes in and I listen to them and I look and see what they're looking at. So right away, people will give you clues if they're serious buyers.
Mhm.
Like one of the things they'll walk in and they'll go, they'll do things like this and they go, this is a little bit bigger than the last house we were looking at.
Mhm.
Things like that. Or someone will say, we really need to change the color of this room. Just simple things like that kind of tip you off.
Mhm.
And then I let them kind of go around and I say, so Brittany, what exactly are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for something like this, but these rooms feel a little too small.
Okay, so they do, okay. So there are, if you would like, I can pull a list of houses where the rooms are a little bit bigger. And we could set some time to take a look at them if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
great. So those are just different and I interact, like I've been to open houses where the agents don't, which that's a different strategy, but I interact. I talk to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't do what would bother me, is I don't follow them
Yes.
from room to room.
Yes.
Like I let them go, they're going, and then I'll intercept them somewhere.
Mhm.
Like if I see they've been through 2 or 3 rooms and now they're heading for the kitchen, I'll just gradually stroll that way and I'll say, so what do you think about the house?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And a couple of fixers that were real junk, they're like, this is crap. I said, well, what would you change?
Yeah.
You told me to ask that.
Yeah.
I said, what would you change? And then the guy's like, this whole room needs to be ripped out and this and that. And I said, well, do you have the ability to do that? Are you a contractor? And they're like, well, I'm working with somebody. So then you get conversations going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to talk about that. What would you change? Because then you go from someone who's like, in their mind, I'm selling this house and I think this house is perfect to, oh, you're on my side. Oh yeah, this master bedroom is ugly. Oh yeah, this is something we could change. Oh yeah, this kitchen does need to be reimagined.
Yeah.
You know, and you can start talking about them like that. Even if you think it's beautiful, you can get on their side and be like,
Yeah.
oh, how would you change it?
And people are very picky about stuff. I learned this on my listing. And this is interesting. One, he has 2, they were teenagers now, they're grown out of the house, adult daughters. But one of the rooms was that pink color. And everybody that walked in there was like, oh. So I told him, I said, nobody likes that pink. So he spent $40, went out and got a gallon of paint and painted it like off-white. And it changed the whole perspective. It was
Yep.
bizarre.
Yep,
Like right after that, people are like, oh, this is so nice. I'm like, it's very weird.
yep.
But yeah. they're
Because
very-
you can't have things that are polarizing.
Yeah,
Even if one person likes it, one person hates it, you
Yeah.
have to be, you have to put yourself out there for the masses.
I mean, I don't have any stats on it, but it felt like that sped up the sale of his house by a couple of weeks just by changing the
I
conversation.
believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Because I'm picky about stuff.
Yeah,
And I've walked into kitchens that are clearly brand new and I'm like, this is hideous. Because it's not my style.
Yeah.
It's not what I would like.
yeah,
And so I know that I'm picky at that. I know that
Yeah.
lots of people are like that.
yeah.
So, you know, you always want to get to what your client is thinking and feeling.
And,
Right.
and
Oh,
one
go
bit of advice I would, if you're hesitant, just break through the hesitancy and just do it.
Mhm.
Because you will find that even if you don't know what to say or what to do, the more you do it, the more you engage and talk with people.
So let's talk about follow-up.
Okay.
What do you do after the open house?
Okay, what I do after the open house is if they have an agent, obviously documented they have an agent, I send an email to them saying, thank you for attending. If you or your agent have any questions, please give me a call. If they don't have an agent or they have a fake agent, because, and they have fake agents.
Yes.
Yes, my first client had a fake agent. She even admitted she's like one of the best customers I've had in 30 years, for real. She recommends me to everybody. She gave me an awesome review. And she pretty much admitted that the agent they were referring to is like this sort of kind of friend they knew somewhere. But I will send them an email saying, thank you for coming. You know, that if there's any other houses you would like to look at in the area, let's get together. Here's my information. And I send it. And then I have put a task in command and I call them 2 days later. I call up and I say, you know, hi, Brittany, did you have any more questions about the house that I met you at? Or would you like to see some other properties in the area?
No, not right now. I think we're just gonna push pause.
Okay, so what I'll do then is I have this program where I can just send you kind of listings in the area that you can see them in your email. And then I'll follow up with you every once in a while to see how things are going, to see if you need any help, or maybe you know somebody that needs help.
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, and then I don't do it every once in a while. I do it like every other week.
Okay, so you do, even if they've said no, you do follow up every other week.
Until they like really say no.
Okay, so we talk about every 3 months, but you do it much more often
I
than
don't,
that.
yeah, no way,
If you don't wait.
no.
Because,
The people that I do like every 3 months are, like I have certain email blasts I do to my sphere of influence. Because they all know me.
right,
They all know. There isn't one person who knows me that doesn't know what I do. So, I will send emails to them every 90 days,
Yeah.
text messages, that kind of stuff. But potential buyers, like I call them. And one of the things I like is because I host, and this is not a advertisement, because I host a daily kickstart in here every Thursday. I already have all my tasks set up to call all those people
Mhm.
that I met recently every Thursday.
How long does that take?
It depends on how long the list is, but it could take me a good solid couple hours, because a lot of people don't answer.
Yeah.
But like the gentleman I just met with, he's like, okay, Ross, I know you called me 6 times already. Like he's keeping track, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, that's it? I only called you 6, it felt like 12.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think. It felt like a lot more. But here, I mean, what I like here is that you guys are hearing, oh, it's a couple hours to do this. It's a couple hours. What I hear from so many people is, I don't have enough people in my database. And my response is, then go out and grow it.
Yeah.
And how do we grow it? It's by holding open houses
Yes.
and building that database. So that's what we want to make sure to do. We talked about those cranky neighbors, but the clarification for that was, what if there are neighbors who just don't want anybody to live in that, to sell that house? Have you ever had that?
No, but I did have a real estate agent that was very upset that I got the listing.
Really?
Yes, she lived 3 houses away and was very upset that I got it. And when she came in, I was just nice to her. She said things that probably were not professional because she was not happy.
Yikes.
But I was just nice to her. When I knocked the whole neighborhood, that's how I first met her, is when I knocked the neighborhood. She was not as kind as she could have been. But I haven't had that, because however much you can sell that house for, the listing agent can, it generally helps the whole street. Like on my street, there was a house, not on my street, but there was a house not far away that was across the street from the worst house we would all want our house to be across the street from. And it actually sold for $1 million. So it was like celebration on my street, that if you're willing to pay $1 million and every time you walk out the front door, you're looking at that. Imagine how much our houses are worth.
Right.
So anything you can do to help the neighborhood, most people seem like they would be happy about it, I would think.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Ross. This was
thank you.
very informative. And don't forget, next week, we're talking about AI and real estate. So we're talking about ChatGPT. We're going to talk about automation, lots of stuff that I've heard from you guys that you want to hear about, you want to know about. So come next week, same time, same place, 11:30 on Monday, and we will be following up about, we'll be talking about all of that good stuff. So thank you guys. Have a great week, and we will see you in coaching. Bye.
Right.
Well, I hope that helped. That was just a little sneak peek of our weekly workshops. Remember, you can join us live in our weekly workshops every Monday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where you can ask any questions you have and be there in real time. Click the link below to register for the next workshop. And if you want to dig deeper and grow your real estate business, click the link below and let's schedule a call to talk about coaching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more videos just like this as soon as they come out, and we'll see you in the next video.